What is going on, folks? Codename Love One Nick Reflex. Interesting video here. I've been talking about this shit for a good 8 years, I think. Something I've known for a while. Having been a medicinal cannabis user for basically about 35 years. Yeah, something that I've known, mate. So let's look at this post. I'll read it out. It says, "Modern weed is poison." Fuck's sake, what's going on here? I had it all lined up for you. Right. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this. It says the cannabis industry has been hijacked by dark forces. They want you numb, dumb and disconnected. This is something I've been talking about for fucking years. As a grower and a user, this is very important information. We've seen the youth basically fall naive prey to this. So even when I started even when I started first smoking dope back in fucking college days, like we're talking 1997, 96, 95. I started smoking in like 94 at the age of 13 or something, right? And then by about 97 I was at college, there was a lot of fucking, I remember really nice cannabis oil, getting that in straws. I also remember lots of hashish, hash, gold seal, red seal. There was a nice supply of fucking weed coming in through the college, which was just fucking, that was like a breath of fresh air, mate. Now, it comes with its downside, but like everyone who's grown up older, I'm going to tell you, the weed was better in my day, right? And when I say better, the hash was being made from sun-grown, earth-grown plants. Now, as a shamanic practitioner, one will know about plant spirits, and false light, for instance. So the false light of the sodium HPS 600 watt fucking lights, which you basically use if you're growing indoors, is no good. It's no good for your mind, no good for your brain. The cannabis is taking in data from that light source. It needs to be the sun, ideally. It should be the sun, and it should be grown in earth, or at least in the sun. I mean, you could do a hydroponic set up in a greenhouse or something under the sun, and that would be better than nothing, right? But it should be grown in the earth. Now, obviously, the weed since the 90s, early 90s, I remember 95, things like Jackira, Skunk Number One, White Widow, all these strains, right, have been fucked with, like, to get them stronger and stronger. Like the guy's going to explain in the video, people were smoking sort of 14%, 16, 17%. That was strong back in the 80s, okay? And then you had all these growers like fucking, what's his name? The Dutch guy that Sensi Seeds, is it Sensi Seed Bank or something like that? I can't remember. Basically, you had all these growers creating all these seeds, and eventually, I mean, I was watching stuff in the 2000s, around 2010. These guys were flying around the world looking for landrace seeds. Landrace, as in original genetics. So when you really start getting into being a smoker, smoking weed, try doing it 35 years, mate. You start to learn a few things, okay? It's like fine wine. Yeah, it's like being a fucking connoisseur of wine, yeah? Connoisseur of hashish, connoisseur of different strains. All this, cheese. UK cheese, it tastes nice, it smells nice. It's not good for you though, mate. I can tell you that much. All these strains are fucking strong. They're like 22, 25% THC. These guys, Bob Marley and that, they were smoking fucking 10%, 11% THC. You know, yard weed, mate. Right? And this is what one should be smoking unless you want entity attachments, mental health problems, psychosis, you know, all kinds of fucking demonic attachments, blah de blah fucking blah. You're opening up your aura to dark entities, and especially the higher the fucking THC. If you're smoking some Thai stick, some Thai weed that's like 14%, you know, if you're smoking rosin made from Gorilla Glue or something like this, that's going to fuck you up, mate. I've had, you know, I know firsthand. I smoked dabs and shit, and it felt like I smoked crack. For fuck's sake, you know, it's processed with fucking butane gas or chemicals or whatever, you know, CO2 extraction. Who knows? Like, extracts are great as medicine in small quantities, but I think people are going to start learning about landrace seeds, strains, etc., etc. Let's listen to what this guy has to say.
Remind you, Bob Marley and the boys weren't smoking cookies. They were smoking homegrown, sun-grown sativa growing on the hillside, like I got growing. And it's not as strong, but the spirit of the medicine is present. And that's what we actually want. Cannabis should be a spiritual interface in between the human and the plant, not numbing out with some hybridized plant-like substance that's 40% THC and leaves you laying on the couch, inebriated. It is designed to uplift and energize, actually. You know, being nailed to the couch, on the indica, is not what the ancestors were doing. Cannabis, for me, the stuff I interface with, is energizing, it's uplifting. Just want to remind you, Bob Marley and the book.
I'm going to give you a little secret as well, a little tip. When you smoke things like cannabis, for example, what you're actually doing is kind of like, it's a rough estimation, it's not exact, but it sounds a bit like this. You're basically stealing or borrowing energy from the future. Okay, it sounds weird, but that's basically what you're doing, which is why you're feeling energized when you use these plants, and there's a come down as well. The day after, you'll feel lethargic or tired, right? Or you want more. Okay, you're basically borrowing or using a quota of energy, a share from the future. And one must also be aware of entity attachments that come in with addiction. So if you're stoned 24/7, unless you know about entity attachments and know how to remove them, for example, going in salt water into the fresh sea, cold water bathing, smudging, frankincense, salt. One must be protecting your space and your aura, especially if you're using medicinal things like cannabis. And, you know, as a youth, as a teen, that is the fucking last thing we're taught, mate. We're not taught about any of that. You only find this out when you only really find this out because you have a necessity, because you're fucking riddled with demons. And I'm sure a lot of teens are, almost all, I would say, easy prey for demonic entities. Be careful who you surround yourself with.